Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Sakib sir.
Assalamu alaikum, sir, and everyone.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, guys. Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible? Yes.
Walaikum salam. Yes, sir.
Welcome, salam. Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Walaikum assalam, sir.
Yeah. Let's start. So the topic which I have in mind for today is exception handling. I guess we have matured enough that we can understand this topic. So I assume abstract class interfaces you all have been practicing, correct? And who's tried to solve the assignments from abstract class interfaces?
Yes, sir, I have done.
Bana has done, right? Rest of you all, I don't see any activeness. Where's Farouk? So let's start with this topic today. Is my screen visible to you all? Called as exception handling. Now, what do we mean by an exception? What is the literal meaning, the dictionary meaning? What is exception? So which occurs rarely, correct?
Yes, sir.
So in a program, if there is a situation let's say I take a text box from the user and I ask the user enter age. Okay. So if 1 million subscribers register, out of that, at least I expect 99.9% to enter age in an integer format, right? 23, 29, 18, 45. Yes or no? The remaining 0.1% maybe of those people who might enter the age like this. Let's say if he's entering 20, he'll enter 20 like this. Possibility or not? So who are exceptions over here? The 99.9%,
0.1%.
the 0.1%. So I cannot assume in my application. I have to consider these people also while developing my application. Because if this person tries to submit, this form will not be accepted, will not be submitted. Because the data type which I have taken to store the value of this red text box is an int or a double, let's say. So whatever he's entering in this red text box should be in an int format. Max in a double format. So someone is 19.5 years. So he can enter 19.5 because that is not a problem, let's say. But entering it in alphabets, that would cause a problem. And that would throw an exception. So exception by definition, you can say that it is an unwanted event
Unwanted event happening.
which occurs at runtime disturbing the normal flow of program execution. Flow of program execution. So if everything was as per plan, so if I had, let's say 3, 4, 5 text boxes, enter name, enter age, enter mobile number, and if people entered sensible data, so for name they entered the first name, for age they entered proper age, for mobile number they entered a proper 10-digit mobile number, blah blah blah, then things would have been very much easier for me. All I had to do is on the submit button, I had to just write a save or insert query. Correct? So for these 99.9% subscribers, things were very easier. My normal flow is very easy. Just take the data and insert in the database. But for these 0.1%, my task has increased. Now I have to tell these guys, please enter age in numeric only. So if he tries to enter age in alphabets or characters, now I have an extra responsibility of guiding these guys to tell, please enter age in numbers or numeric format only. So my normal flow has been disturbed. My normal flow was take this data, save it. Take this data, save it, which I have been doing for approximate these many users. For these many users, I have been doing all this. Now for this 0.1% for these 100 approximate users, I have to go out of my way and tell them to please enter data in numeric format only. So once an exception occurs, you have to handle that exception. You can't just let that exception be, because exception will terminate the program. So who's getting what I'm trying to show over here? What is an exception? By definition, you all can memorize these 3-4 lines. So what is an exception?
An unwanted event which occur at runtime, disturbing the normal flow of program execution.
So this was more of a technical example. Let me give you a day-to-day life example, okay? There is one individual, he leaves his house by 8 a.m. to reach office at 9 a.m. This is his normal routine. So he leaves home, this is his house, and this is his office. Office he reaches at 9 a.m. This is his daily routine. It takes 1 hour for him to travel. Okay, this is his normal routine. One fine day, he has a flat tire. Now, will he reach office on time
No,
as per normal schedule?
no,
No. So this unwanted event is called as flat flat tire exception. What all unwanted events can occur?
flat tire.
Anything else? Can we have heavy rain exception also?
Yes, of course.
Heavy rain exception.
Yes.
So now it's raining heavily. There's a lot of okay. We can also have traffic jam.
Traffic exception. Yes,
Traffic jam exception.
yes.
These are unwanted events which are occurring, which will disturb his normal flow of program execution. Okay. So if this flat tire exception occurs, will he leave his bike at the roadside unattended and go? What will he do? He will mend the tire, right? That is called, he will handle. He will handle the exception. So if there is a heavy rain exception, what will he do? He will take his raincoat along. Wear his raincoat, drive slowly. Okay, if he's on a two-wheeler. If there is a traffic jam exception, the cops will intervene and try to sort out the situation. So exception occurs, so it has to be handled. There should be some mechanism in place to handle that exception. Okay, so an unwanted event which occurs at runtime. So when did the flat tire, when did he see the flat tire? When he was on the way to office, right? If he was leaving home and at 7:50, if he saw the flat tire, would he take that bike or would he take that car? If at home he realized that he has a flat tire, would he have taken bike or car to office?
No.
So when did he realize that he has a flat tire?
Then he just already took the vehicle.
So he was on the way, right?
Right.
When he was en route, what we call that?
En route.
Okay, on the way, correct?
Yes.
So exception occurs at runtime, this keyword, okay? So when he is at home, that is called as compile time. That is called as what?
Compile time.
So what occurs at compile time is an error. Okay. So we have two things, errors and exceptions. Error is irrecoverable. You cannot recover from an error. But exceptions are recoverable. Once an exception occurs, you can handle that exception and recover from that. But if an error occurs, errors are irrecoverable. So if you run out of memory, then that is an error. So you have to shut down the application, provision for a high amount of memory, and then rerun the application, because the memory problem is an error, not an exception, which cannot be handled by code. So it cannot be handled by, so exception are recoverable. They can be recoverable and can be handled by the developer by code. So these are two different things. So what occurs at compile time is an error. So if there's an error, the code will not compile, let alone executing.
Recoverable.
So if it shows you 3 errors, mean you have to fix those 3 errors, then and then only your program will execute. Correct? Who's trying to understand what I'm trying to say? Who's getting the crux of what is an exception? Yes, Paru, can you summarize the discussion till now? So it's a new topic for you guys, so I don't want to rush.
Yes, sir. Exception is something unplanned or unfortunate thing which is not already been planned and not the part of our already like we say it's not our daily routine. Something unfortunate happened. This is the unplanned or it's like
Unexpected.
yeah, unexpected thing happens.
It was not, but I had planned for it. See, it was not expected, but I had provisions for it. So I carry a spare tire with me, at the back of my car. So I
Yes.
am ready. I have some mechanism.
Like it's plan B.
Yeah. So it's but I would not want this situation to occur. Correct. But if it is,
Correct.
if it occurs, then I have some mechanisms in place to handle it. Correct.
Correct.
So exceptions are those code which we would not, as a developer, would not want to occur. But if it occurs, then we have to handle those exceptions. Okay. Getting it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Oh.
sir.
Now they are of 2 types. Primarily, they are of 2 types. Okay. So very important. They asked this in the interview. What are checked exceptions and what are unchecked exceptions? So the very spontaneous reply which candidate give is checked exception occur at runtime. And unchecked exception occur at compile time. Something of this nature they tell, which is absolutely wrong. All exceptions occur at
Runtime.
runtime. So there is no question that you will say occurs at compile time. Errors occur at compile time. Then what is the difference between checked exception and unchecked exception? Okay. So let me explain this with an analogy so that you all understand it better. We all have given our university, here we call as board exams. In India, we call it as board exams, the exam for 10th and 12th standard. Right? So we call
Right.
them board exams. The state board conducts the exam. So this is a landmark day, like on when we go for the first paper of our 10th standard. It is a landmark day in our academic life for us also and for the parents also. So there is this candidate and he is leaving from his house to the exam hall. Okay, there's a designated area where we give our exams. So the exam hall. So he is leaving. He's still in the house, hasn't left. Okay, so the mom is also there. So this is a candidate, and this is the mom. So now once before he is leaving the house, the mom will ask, what if you run out of ink? What if you run out of ink in the exam hall? And they will not allow sharing. They will not allow people asking for a spare pen in the exam hall because they might suspect that you are asking for an answer, you are cheating. So the mom says, have you taken a spare pen with you? If this exception occurs, which exception occurs? That you run out of ink and then you have to ask people and borrow, which will waste time. So the mom foresees, because she has given this exam 20-30 years ago. So as an experienced candidate, she realizes that there have been situations wherein candidates have run out of ink and then they start asking for a spare pen in the exam hall, which leads to waste of time. And in the exam hall, one second is precious. So the mom foresees this, that this might happen with the son also. So she tells the son, have you taken a spare pen? The son tells, yes, mom, I have taken a spare pen. The mom knows he is very careless. He says, open up your pencil box and show me that you have taken 2 pens. Unless and until the candidate opens his pencil box and shows the mom that he has 2 pens and the second pen is still in the wrapper, means it's still brand new, then only she will say, okay, you can now leave the house. Without seeing the spare pen, the mom will not allow the son to leave the house. Am I making sense to you all? Are you all able to relate with the example? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then there is one more thing which the mom says might happen in the exam hall. You know what's a hall ticket? Yes, guys.
Admit
To
card
enter
type.
the examination center, the university or the board gives you a ID card, sort of identity card.
Got
Only
it.
those
Admit
candidates
card.
who have a valid identity card can enter the exam hall. Or else if they don't give you an exam hall, this hall ticket, then some dummy person can come and give the exam. That hall ticket has your name, has your photograph. So if there's any squad which comes to check your identity, they will ask you to show your identity. If they find suspicious that this person is not looking of our school, so they will ask him to show his identity card and then they'll match the face, the photo on the identity card and the actual photo. So this is compulsory. You have to carry it for each and every exam. So the mom tells the son, are you carrying your hall ticket with you? He says, yes, mom, I'm carrying it. He says, no, show it to me. So he opens up his wallet or whatever case in which he is carrying it, pouch, and then he shows the mom, okay, this is my hall ticket, this is my photo. When the mom sees this, okay, he's carrying, then she will say, okay, now you can leave the house, else she will not allow him to leave. Is this understood, these examples? So here the mom is the compiler. You can visualize the mom as a compiler. and the sun as the program. So those exceptions which are warned by the compiler that they might occur at runtime, and unless and until we show the compiler the handling mechanism, that we have taken some mechanism to handle those exceptions, unless and until we show it to the compiler, not only just tell, other show it to the compiler, it will not compile the code. The compiler will only compile the code once you show that what provisions you have taken to handle those exceptions.
Sir, we don't require interpreter after the compiler.
Interpreter will execute the code line by line. So interpreter will not come in the case of exception. Interpreter just takes the code line by line and executes it from top to bottom.
Okay.
So checked exceptions are those exceptions which are warned by the compiler that such exceptions may occur. Well, exceptions is may, right? You can't guarantee exception will occur. It always may. They may. It may rain. It may. You may have a flat tire. You may have a traffic jam. So that such exception may occur at runtime, and until and unless you show the compiler that you have taken adequate measures to handle them if they occur. And unless you show the compiler that you have taken adequate measures to handle them, then only will the compiler compile the code, else it will not. Who understood this? Oh, these are checked exceptions. Yes, Shabana, what have you understood so far by what are checked exceptions? Yes, Amir.
Little bit I understand.
What
I'm
did-
trying to understand, sir, all the things.
So, yes, Farooq, what did you understand? What is checked exception?
Sir, first thing, what is compiler in JVM? I mean, have we ever used it?
The one which checks for the validity of the code, that your code is written properly, that the syntax are proper, and the grammar, it checks for the grammar of the program, as simple as that. So if the grammar is if some condition, then some set of code, else then some set of code. If this is the grammar of if condition, correct? And if I
Correct.
don't follow this grammar, the compiler will check whether this grammar is followed or not. So if, and it checks for syntaxes also. It also checks for the syntax, whether there is a semicolon properly put.
I understand, sir.
So all these are checked by the compiler. And once the compiler is satisfied, okay, the grammar of the program looks correct, and syntactically also the program is correct. Because if you see in Python, we have if, we have a condition, and we don't have parentheses, we have a colon. So this grammar of Python, the compiler of Python will make sure it is correct. And the compiler of Java will make sure if and the condition should be in round brackets. And it should be for if it contains multiple statements, it should be followed by a parentheses. So all this validness and well-formedness. Your program should be valid, should be well-formed. Okay. So if
I got it, sir.
the spelling of if is if. Some languages also call if as phi. So this is invalid. Okay. This is not a valid syntax of Java. So that is what the compiler checks. So those exceptions which are warned by the compiler, that these exceptions may occur at runtime. And until and unless we convince the compiler and we show the compiler that we have taken some measures to handle them, then only the compiler will compile, else the compiler will throw errors and say, please show me the handling mechanism, else I will not compile. So like this, unless until you show the mom, this candidate shows the mom what she's asking for, the spare pen and the hall ticket, the mom will not, make sure that he doesn't leave the house. Getting it? Then what are unchecked
Yes, sir.
exceptions then?
Yes, sir.
What are unchecked
Yes, sir.
exceptions?
Unchecked
Unchecked is
exceptions are checked at runtime.
Yes.
Which are not warned by the compiler, which are
Just
Yes,
opposite
yes.
of the checked
Yeah.
checked exception.
which are not warned by the compiler. Okay, so will the mom say, son, have you taken your life jacket? There might be a flood at the exam hall. The mom herself is not aware of whether the flood will come or not. So those exceptions which the compiler doesn't warn are called as unchecked exceptions, which are not warned by the compiler, are known as unchecked exceptions. Okay, and these are programming logic exceptions. Okay, so the Java doesn't know which programmer will make what logic mistake. Okay, so these are your mostly programmer to programmer, what logical mistakes that programmer can make. So those exceptions, they mostly come into the unchecked exceptions. Okay, so Java has a hierarchy of exceptions. Java has a hierarchy of classes. Okay, which is the class which is the top of the hierarchy in Java, from which all the classes inherit? Which is that class in Java from whom all the all the classes originate?
Object class.
Yes, correct. Which is that class?
Object class.
Object. Its name of the class is object. So object class is top of the hierarchy class in your Java exception. Okay. Then in your exception, and so objects, lots of classes. So let's call this object class as Adam class. Okay, Adam alayhi salam. So son of Adam or children of Adam, they migrated to different continents. Okay, so those who went to China, the Chinese descendants have come from that particular descendant of Adam. Those who went to Australia, America, those children are from those descendants. And those who went to the subcontinent, India, those descendants are from those sons. Okay, so let's say someone who came to Asia. So the Asian origin is from that son. So like this, there are many classes. So this itself is an entire continent. This itself is an entire continent. So like this, one of the classes. So the exception handling continent, the head of that is your throwable class. So there is a class called as throwable. That is the parent class of all the exception handling ones. So all the classes which belong to the exception handling chapter are descendants of the throwable class, which is in turn descendant of the object class, correct?
Sir, which class we can see Provil?
Throwable, yeah. Is not able to, you're not able to see the screen,
No, sir.
is it?
We can see the checked or exception. Now we can see.
Okay, got it? Now from the throwable class, we have two classes originating now. Okay. So now in this chapter of exception, we have two classes originating. One is error, one is exception. Okay.
Okay.
So error is something which is related to your hardware failure, okay, which cannot be recovered. Once you face an error, then you have to shut down the application and solve that error and then restart the application. So if you run out of memory space, something of that nature, some hard disk failure, some network failure. So unless until you mend the network, the program will not execute. So those are your errors. So the throwable has two main children, error and next is exception, correct? Now exception. Now exception has two children. Which are they? Which are they? The two children of exception.
So runtime error and compiler error.
No, checked and unchecked. Checked
Yeah.
and
Unchecked.
so exception has a child called as runtime exception. Exception has a child called as what? So all the exception classes end with the keyword exception. All the children of exception are your unchecked exception. All the children of the runtime exception class are your unchecked exceptions. So some examples are arithmetic exception is one example. Now exception has two. So all the children of runtime are unchecked. And apart from that, all are checked. So there are classes like IO exception, SQL exception. Okay. There are classes like okay, let me put it like this.
Array out of count.
That is other one is runtime.
Okay.
So exception, those who directly inherit from exception, those who directly inherit from exception are your checked exceptions. I'll put them over here. Those who directly inherit from exception are your checked exception. So in that you have IO exception is a checked exception. If you are doing with some database connectivity, then you have SQL exception. Then you have class not found exception. These are all checked exceptions. And all the children of runtime are your unchecked exceptions. So arithmetic exception is one of them, null pointer exception is another. arithmetic exception, null pointer exception. These are all unchecked. Okay. An array index out of bounds exception. Blah blah, there are many. So each exception has the key. The class name ends with the keyword exception. So these are all your children of runtime exceptions are your unchecked exceptions. Just remember this. And those who directly inherit from exception are your checked exceptions. So these are your class hierarchies in your. So which is the top of the class in Java, top of the hierarchy class in Java?
Object class.
Object class.
Then from object class, there are many other classes coming in the exception handling continent, which is the top of the hierarchy class. Which is the top of the hierarchy class in the exception handling chapter.
Throwable.
Throwable.
And throwable, what are the children of throwable?
Exception, error.
Exception.
And exception
Are
of
two type.
checked and unchecked.
Exception are two type, checked and unchecked.
So which all are the checked exceptions? Those who
IOX.
directly inherit from exception are called as checked exception. Which are they? Can you name 3 checked exceptions?
IO exception, SQL exception, and class not found exception.
And which are the unchecked exceptions?
Runtime exceptions is a.
So runtime
Automatic.
exception is a child of exception class.
Mhm.
And those exceptions which inherit from runtime exception are all your unchecked exceptions, correct? And these exceptions occur mostly due to the logic of the developer. So they are unchecked. Understood the hierarchy classes? So far, so good, guys.
So
Anyone?
far, so good. Yes, sir.
All good, okay. Then in this chapter, we have lots of bullet points to cover. I guess there are approximate 10 to 12 bullet points to cover. So first bullet point which we have to cover, I guess, which we have done is your definition. Has that been covered? All comfortable with what is the definition of exception? Then second
Yes, sir.
point is checked and unchecked exception, that is types of exception. That too, I guess, is covered. Which are checked and unchecked, correct? This also is covered. Then third is the class hierarchy in exception. So are you aware of the class hierarchy? Which is the parent class and which a child class, which are checked exception parent, which are unchecked exception parent, blah blah blah. So far so good. We have come till point number 1, 2, and 3. Now point number 4, we have Java's natural tendency, or what do you call as? So if I put my hand on a hot pan, what is the natural tendency of the human being? What is the immediate reaction?
So we just took our hand out off.
Pull off my hand, right? So what is
Right.
Java's natural tendency and immediate reaction when an exception occurs? So this
Checked.
is not taught in any university or any school, that if you touch a hot pan, what you should do. Steps. That is by birth, every human being knows, right? That if
Right.
that is what I should do. So what is Java's
instinct.
natural tendency? So whenever an exception occurs, what Java does instantly, Okay.
So checked.
No, we'll come to that topic. Okay. So see, all this while, have we been handling exceptions?
Yes, sir.
All this while, which exception have you handled till now? We started the topic today. So which exception have you handled so far in your program, Farooq?
Sir, checked exceptions.
Which? So can you show me where you handled it?
I mean, today.
Yeah, so all this while I'm saying, for the last
Oh,
3 sessions, for the past 2 months, have you handled any exception? No, right? We were
no.
So even if we faced an exception, we did not handle it. So Java was handling it its natural way. Okay. So what is Java's natural tendency or immediate reaction when an exception occurs? Then fifth point is I'll give a shortcut as EH going forward. Okay. So we can
Sir, the 9 and 10 are the different thing. I mean,
yeah, they are different. Exception, delegation. Yeah, I guess this much should be sufficient for you guys as of now for this chapter. Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is sufficient. So if needed, I'll add some topics later on, but as this is covered, let's say, just striking them off. Class hierarchy also is covered. Now, what is Java's natural tendency when an exception occurs? See, Java has a vast library of exception classes. Okay. Java has a vast library of exception classes. So whatever exception Java thinks may occur, Java has a class of that exception. So some name are followed by the exception keyword. Okay. So whatever, so arithmetic exception. Okay. Null pointer exception. Like this, Java has a vast hundreds of classes of each type of exception which might occur in a program.
sir, what is arithmetic exception?
Arithmetic exception is when you have some arithmetic calculation.
Calculation of like the plus minus multiplications
If you
and
try to do this, if you try to divide by 0, so what would be the result?
Infinity error.
So you cannot store that into a variable, right? So if I take over
Right.
here, double answer,
yes.
let's store on infinity in the answer.
No,
So this is
No.
a programming
it
logic,
shows a 0.0 something.
programmer's logical error. So for such type of issues, Java has a class called as arithmetic exception. Okay. So for each sort of exception, Java has a inbuilt class. So Java's natural tendency is whenever an exception occurs in the program, Java's natural tendency is search in the huge library of exception classes to find which class exception has occurred. So whenever an exception occurs, Java will first search in this huge library of exceptions. That is the first step. To find which class. So if someone tries to do this, so Java will search and then Java will identify, okay, this is of which class? This
Exception.
Arithmetic exception.
So Java will search and then Java will come to know, okay, this sort of exception is for arithmetic exception. Second point, Java will create object of that class. Java will create
Itself.
okay, this is important. Create an object of that class. So
Java itself created the object. We
Yeah,
don't
that is-
need to create.
that is what I don't know, Java's natural tendency. By birth, what is Java trained for? So when you will touch the pan, when a kid touches the pan, the mom does not tell, please remove your hand. He himself will remove the hand. Because that is in his, as a human, it's injected in his.
So it's instinct, a basic instinct of human. Hello?
Yeah, sorry guys. So
Can you
this is Java's
explain
natural
second point,
tendency,
sir?
Farooq.
Sir,
So-
can you explain second point, sir? Java will create an object of that class.
So if
That
someone,
class means, sir, which
I'll tell
class
you.
of exception?
yes. So if someone tries to write this, or someone tries to say, let's SOP,
Mm.
SOP enter numerator. Okay. Someone tries to say and SOP enter numerator. Okay. And then he takes that into the variable n. And then someone says enter denominator. And he takes that into the and then he takes that in the variable t. Guys, 1 second. Just give me. So now if he enters this n and d, and now if he tries to write this, now if he tries to write this code n divided by d. So if he enters numerator as 10 and denominator as 2, what will be the answer?
5.
5.
Would there be any exception over here?
No.
Okay, now if he enters this, then
Yeah.
so what type of exception will occur?
Arithmetic.
So Java will first dive in this vast library of exception classes. whether it is IO exception, whether it is SQL exception, whether it is null pointer exception, class not found, which exception it is, it will search.
But sir, it sir not sure any error sir, क्योंकि so ना double answer, the last one is a double,
Hmm.
so it shows a 0.0, not a exception. When you use a in place of double int answer,
Okay.
then it shows a
Okay.
error, arithmetic.
Int answer. Okay.
Yes, right now.
Now this will throw an exception. So which class exception will it throw now?
Arithmetic exceptions.
So Java will first search in its vast
Unchecked.
library of which class exception this is. And it will first identify the class. That is point number 1. So is the class identified?
Yes, sir.
So in step number 1, the class has been identified. So which has been that this is arithmetic exception. Okay. And it's in java.lang package. Which package?
Java.lang.
So it will first identify which class this belongs, the fully qualified name of the class. Okay, once identified, what will Java do then next?
Create an object.
So what does Java do? New.
So, sir, I mean, whenever we have to write like a scanner, we use java.util. So is this also the exception classes?
No, that is just to input from the user. Exception classes end with the keyword exception.
Okay, so
With the
we
keyword
were, I mean, also searching for the Java library.
with Java library.
I mean, like a util.scanner or util.
We are importing that. If
Direct.
you want to use any class which is predefined, so if you want to use any app which is on the Play Store, what do you have to do first? Download it, right?
Right.
If you want to use any predefined class, so scanner is a predefined class. So if you want to use that class, you have to import it. So whenever you wish to import, use a predefined class, you should import that class. Getting?
Got it.
That is what we do. That is. So if I want to make object to read from the console, I need a scanner object. So for that, I will import the scanner class and then make its object. The
Okay.
next step, it will create an object of that class. Correct? Done?
Correct.
And step 3, it will throw that object. What will it do?
Throw that object. Sir, how it create the object?
New and the
Say it again, sir.
new and that class name which it has identified.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
we'll create the object. And third, it will what do what?
Throw the object.
Throw the object. Okay, so it will be like whatever object this is made over here, throw this object. Throw and this object. This is what Java's natural. If the programmer catches this object, the exception will be handled. Okay. So all this while we were not catching the exception. So if the programmer catches this thrown exception, it will be handled. Will be if the programmer does not catch the exception. Programmer does not catch this thrown exception, it will spill over on the console and will print the name of the exception class on the console.
Sir, the developer can only be able to catch once it will be thrown by the um, Java
Yes,
library.
yes, Farooq.
I'm saying that the programmer will only be able to catch the this exceptions once Java just throw the object.
Yes, yes, correct.
We cannot do it before this
No,
step.
before we before means there is no exception, no? Before means why would you want to handle when there is no exception? So if there is 10 and 2, so you will write the code. You will write the handling code to make sure that if exception occurs, I will catch it. And if it does not occur, this code will not be executed. So you will carry a spare tire with you. If there is no flat tire, this spare tire will not be used.
Right.
So we as a programmer will have the handling mechanism in place. For the
Okay, got it.
situation if the exception occurs. If it does not occur, then this code will not be executed.
Okay, got it.
So see, these are the natural behavior of Java. So what is the first step Java does when exception occurs?
Search in the library.
Mm-hmm.
Then it will create an object of the class
Okay.
and then through the object.
Throw the object. Yeah, this is important. Throw the object.
Object.
What is thrown? Object is thrown. Yes. And then what happens if you don't catch it? Then I have two options. I can catch it or I may not catch it, right?
Right.
So if I throw it, so when Java throws the exception, I have two
So
options.
then,
Catch it or drop it, correct?
correct.
So if I catch it, what happens? If I drop it, what happens?
So if we catch it, this throw the exception, it will spill over the console.
Exception object, right? Exception object. It can be caught or it can be dropped. So what happens when I catch it and what happens when I drop it? If I catch it, what happens?
Sir, we can
Handle it. Hmm.
handle it. Yes, we can solve the problem.
And the program continues execution. And the program continues
Executing.
executing. So once I've handled the exception, the program will continue execution. Okay. And if I don't handle it, then what happens?
It will spill over on the console.
And what will it display on the console?
Name and the terminate the program.
Name also plus at what line the exception was thrown. Was thrown and the reason of the exception. So it
So
will
usually on the console, if there is any runtime error, so usually it will be on the console. I
yes,
mean,
it's on the console, yes.
yes.
So if I don't catch the exception, so I'll just show you the live scenario. Do you see my Eclipse screen?
Yes, sir.
You all see my Eclipse, right?
Right.
So I'll just show you all the demo of this. So now if I take int a comma b comma c, and if I say enter numerator, and okay, let's take n comma d comma answer. So integer n will be, okay, I'm not taking a scanner yet. Scanner. So if I want to use an inbuilt class, I have to first import it. So we do vice versa over here. We first write it, and then we can take the cursor over here and say, please import it for me. And similarly, I will say, no need to use the n again. And similarly, I will say, okay, I will say answer equals to n divided by d. And I will sys out the answer. Okay, so now if I run this code, and if I enter 10 and 2, it will display 5. There has been no exception, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now if I run this code and I write something which will throw an exception. So
10, 0.
10, 0. So see that. Now the program has terminated and it has told me what exception has occurred. Okay, and at which line it has occurred. In which
Number
class?
12.
So it says go to the natural tendency class at line number 12. So I come here, and this is the line which is. So what it did is at this line, it identified that an exception has occurred. It created an object of that exception and through the object. And as I did not catch it, my program terminated. So if I, after this, if I display sys out high, did it display high to me? Did it display high to me? So if I run again, okay, 2, 0. Did it display high?
No.
I displayed. Was this high displayed?
No, sir.
No. So it has, this is Java's natural way of handling the when an exception occurs. So what it does? Yes. What does Java do? It
Sir, it search for the library, then it will create the object, and then it throw the object.
yeah, and if I now I did not catch the object, what happens? If the programmer does not catch, what happens? It will spill over on
It
the
spill over on the console, and the program will be
the
terminated.
name of the exception class on the console plus do what?
Terminate the program.
Yes, there, and then the program will shut down. So
Sir, can you show the Eclipse? Now I want ask from the student, I mean, not you, that why we don't use here the util command,
see which command?
the util.
The util command is over here.
Okay,
Command is used
perfect.
for taking
Okay, now this program is prone to one more problem. If I say while running enter numerator and I enter over here SCS, now what?
Error, sir, syntax error, I think, because
Input mismatch exception. What will come now?
mismatch exception.
Input mismatch, right? Because I am taking on the LHS what? To access the numerator.
Integer,
And
right.
what is the user entering?
Sir, a string.
So what
Strings
will
are
happen?
Very.
What is Java's natural tendency now?
Sir, it will search and then it will
It will search and will come to know that this is for input mismatch exception. Which class?
input mismatch exception class.
So what will this do now?
Sir, it will throw on the console and program will be terminated.
So what will display on the console?
Sir, exception. It will mismatch exception class and then it will
At which
terminate.
line? Which line?
Line number 9.
Okay. So it has thrown this, and what it is telling, which is that
Download. Mismatch exception.
at which line.
Line number 9.
So if you don't handle it, this will happen, and the program will terminate. Did it ask me to enter denominator?
No,
Why no?
the program will terminate immediately.
Program will terminate. Is this understood?
Yes, sir.
So I can now strike off this line also. Okay, now how to handle the exception? Okay, so in the COVID phase, we heard a word a lot.
Quarantine.
What does this mean?
Isolate.
Okay, and this word was in use since 2001, 2002 in the IT domain, but it got recognition in the COVID phase. This was used in antivirus companies. So what happens is, if they would find a file, let's say this file abc.txt is infectious, and this file might now corrupt the hard disk and might corrupt other files also. So if I had an antivirus installed, what the antivirus would do, it would make an area on the hard disk and cut and paste that file in that hard disk and quarantine this file so that this file does not infect the other files. So quarantine word was used for the antivirus stuff. But that was only known by technical people. But in the lockdown, even the common man came to know what is quarantine, right? So
Right.
this file is now then kept into observation. So if there is a, let's say, prison, and there is the prison master or the jailer of that prison, and he sees that one of the prisoners is very naughty and is trying to be notorious and is trying to, create unnecessary tension in the prison, what does the jailer do?
So isolate him and send him to some
Yes, he will
different.
isolate that person, making sure he doesn't intermingle with the other prisoners, correct?
Correct.
So he is kept under observation, kept under,
Observation.
correct? So now, which are those lines which I feel are suspicious and might throw an exception? Which are those lines? So this is the one line which is throw exception, correct?
Correct.
Which is input mismatch. This is one line which can throw exception. And this is one line which can throw exception, correct?
Correct.
So these three are the lines which I feel can throw an exception, correct? So
Correct.
I will put them under observation and monitor them, whether they throw an exception or not. So I will put them in a try block. I'll put them in a.
Problem.
So those
but
lines,
the Java is only indicating for the first one. I mean, the 9. And for the other two, we have to look for them.
Which other two?
I mean, the 13 and 14 now.
Yeah, so they are now all part of the try block. So this is the code which I feel is suspicious, because this can throw input mismatch, this can throw input mismatch, and this can throw arithmetic, correct?
Correct.
So that part of the code which I feel is suspicious and can throw a exception at runtime, I put it under observation. That is called as try block. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If my doubt which I had on them is right, and they do throw an exception, so I have to catch that exception. So which all exceptions am I expecting in this try block?
Sir, to your n, d, and answer
Which
n divided by
all
d.
exceptions classes?
Sir, mismatch exception.
Exception, correct, this one.
Yes, sir.
So I will have a catch for each of the exceptions. So I'll have a catch for input mismatch, whatever object I want to give, because what is thrown, object is thrown, right? So I want to catch it in object. So I
Right.
have object of it as E1. And if that exception occurs, this catch block will catch it. So what will I say if he enters an invalid integer? I will say, please enter valid integer. And this class is from the which package? Util package. So imported. Imported from them, yes. And which all exception am I expecting at this line?
Arithmetic
Sir,
exception.
mismatch exception.
No, this is at line number 12 and 14. Line number 15.
Arithmetic exception, sir.
So write a catch for that also. So this catch block works like a switch case. Works like a
Switch case. Okay,
switch case. You know what the switch case, right?
right, sir. We are familiar with this.
So now, please enter valid denominator, correct?
So, not denominator is a answer is a result, sir.
That will show over there.
Arithmetic exception, sir. Please enter.
So see. So now I have now started the monitoring. Handling part has started now. So which code I feel is notorious and may throw an exception at runtime, I put that code in the try block. That is, I am into observing this code. This scanner, I am okay. This will not do anything at runtime. This is just a merely print statement. It's okay. But this is that notorious code which might throw exception at runtime. So I'm putting it in try block. So whichever exception is thrown first, the program will, that remaining part of try will be skipped. Remaining part of try will be. So if I say enter denominator and if I enter over here ABC, now will it go to line number 14?
No.
So it will first go over here, right? If I enter over here ABC, so it will, at which line will it throw the exception?
14.
Okay, let me take that also over here so that we get to know what is happening. So now as the user comes and enters numerator, okay, and he enters ABC, can ABC stored in integer n?
No.
No.
So which exception will occur and at which line?
Input
Sir, the program will terminate at line 12.
Exception will occur at which line? Is my question.
question number 13, sir.
13.
Sorry,
Which
line
exception?
number 13, sir. Input mismatch
Put
exception.
mismatch.
And what does Java do when it comes across the exception?
Search for the library and then throw it on the console.
It has found it is of this class. Then what to do? It has in the library it has found it is of this class. Now
It will throw on the console.
so it will create an object and throw, right?
Right.
Now am I catching any of that exception? Am I catching? Is there any catch
Yes, sir.
willing to
Yes.
catch input mismatch?
Right.
So once the exception is thrown, the remaining part of try will be skipped. The remaining part of try will be,
Escape.
this code will not be executed and directly it will go to the corresponding catch. So which is that catch which is catching input mismatch exception? This catch, correct?
Yes, sir.
And now this catch will handle the exception. And what will it tell?
Please enter valid
Please
integer.
enter.
And will my program terminate now? No,
Yes.
program will continue executing.
Okay.
It will display me high also. It will display me high. Program will not terminate. Program will continue executing because I have handled the exception. Getting it, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now here if I enter 10, will there be any input mismatch exception?
No.
Not
Will
happening.
it ask me enter denominator?
Yes.
Yes.
Here if I enter ABC, now what happens?
The program will terminate there.
Good.
What will Java do eternally
Match.
on the series of steps?
First, search in the library, then it will create an object, and then it will just throw the object,
And
and the program will
remaining part
terminate
of
and it
try will be
will
skipped. Remaining part of try will be,
skip.
will it execute this code at 16 and 17?
No, it will terminate
It will go to the
immediately.
corresponding catch, which is matching to that object. So object is bit of this class. So which is that catch which is matching this object?
So 2019.
And what will it print on the console?
Please enter valid integer.
And the program will continue executing. So whatever is there after that, it will still be executed. What will it say?
Hi. So if we catch, then it will print hi.
Yeah, because now we are catching it, right?
Right.
Okay, third time. If I enter 10, if I enter 0. Now,
So
will
it will
throw
also
input mismatch?
yes.
Will it throw input mismatch?
No, I mean
Sorry.
it will not.
Then at which line will it see an exception?
16, line number 16.
Which class will it identify it is of?
Arithmetic
Arithmetic exception handling.
Whose object will it make? It will make object of which class?
Exception.
arithmetic
exception.
exception.
So do I have any catch to catch that?
Yes.
What
Yes.
is that?
Second one, sir.
Arithmetic
Arithmetic
exception.
exception
What will
E2.
that do then?
Please enter valid denominator, and then the program will continue.
Yeah. Getting it?
Yes, sir.
And if I enter 10 and fourth time if I enter 10 and 2, any exception occurred?
No.
So it will display me 5. Program will not go in any cache, will say hi. Getting
Right, sir. Yes, sir.
Now let's try to run and check all the 4 permutations. Okay, so first I enter ABC. I enter ABC. What will happen in this case now?
So it will ask for please enter valid integer.
And will it ask for enter denominator?
No.
Because when at a
Directly terminate.
line in the try block, the exception is thrown, remaining part of try is skipped.
And it shows high.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And if I run this for second time, and if I enter 10 and ABC now,
Then first line executed and
ABC,
second,
no?
it shows an error in second line, line number 15.
Okay. And now if I enter 10 and 0,
But sir, the program is running. I mean, it is showing high. It should not be.
was we are handling the exception, no? When Java does not handle when the programmer does not handle the exception, program will terminate. See this part.
Okay.
You are
Means
catching it
flow
or
of
missing it.
program is not stopping continuously.
If you drop the exception, then this will happen. If the programmer does not catch, it will spill over the console and print the name of the exception class and terminate the program. If the programmer catches it, it will be handled and the program continues execution.
All right.
So now if I enter 10 and 0, now what?
Then sir,
Uh,
line number 15, sir, is
Arithmetic exception.
And
line number 16.
It will
Line
identify
number
that this
16 is
exception
the
of
arithmetic
exception.
exceptions.
It will create an object and throw it. Will it be caught
Search
by this
in
catch?
library.
Will it be caught by the catch at 19?
No.
Then this will work like a switch case. It will work like a switch case. Will it catch by this catch?
Yes.
And it will go inside and say what?
Hi. Please enter valid denominator, and then Hi.
Getting it?
Yes, sir.
And now if I say 10 and 2,
Yes, sir. It's
Getting it,
executed
guys?
without any.
Yes, sir. I got it.
got it, right?
Yes, sir.
Then I forgot to add 1 point more.
Sir, what is EH here?
Exception handling.
Exception handling.
Okay.
Okay, so 6A, and then I forgot to add a point. I'll call it 6B. Default exception handling. What we call it as?
Default.
Exception handling. Okay. See,
Uh,
if I want to call a method, I need an object of that class, correct?
Correct.
If I don't have the object and I call the method, is it possible? For example,
Say it.
if I have a string object, string S, and it is pointing nowhere, where is S pointing to now?
Null.
Okay, later on, if I say S equals to Alice, now where is S pointing to?
Alice.
So
Alice.
these are two statements. So now when I say string S equals to null, I had a reference by the name S, and it was pointing to nowhere. Pointing to nowhere, correct?
Correct.
Then I made a memory location Alice, which are at, let's say, address 1000. I made this object in the string pool. And
Sir,
then,
but we don't need to mention null. I mean, in JVM, its default value is already null.
when we'll just for example sake, because I want to show you null pointer exception. Now where is S pointing to?
1000.
Address.
Alice. So now if I say S dot length, if I display SOP S dot length, what will it display me?
1000.
Length of Alice 5.
Okay.
Zero.
What will it display me?
5.
If I would do the same over here, when S was pointing at null, S dot length, what will it display me?
Sir, null.
Null pointer.
Or
What will
null.
be thrown? What will be thrown?
Null pointer
Null
exception.
pointer, that where you are pointing is there nothing over there. I cannot find the length of nothing. So Java will make an object of which class?
Null pointer exception.
And throw that object. Okay. So now I'll do that over here. So in this try, I'll make string S equals to null. Okay. And I'll sys out S dot length. So tell me, which exception will be thrown over here?
Sir, null pointer exception.
Which class? Null pointer, right?
Right.
So have I taken any catch for that?
No.
No.
The null pointer exception. So either you can have the same class or you can have any of its parent class. Which is the parent of null pointer exception?
Runtime exceptions.
Runtime.
Is the grandparent of runtime null pointer exception. Remember we had done PP new C. Yes or no? So if there is a grandfather, father, and son or grandson. So if I want to make object of new grandson, what all references can I have?
Grandfather,
Reference of which-
father.
And father.
Is this a valid reference? GS is new GS. Is this code valid? Is this code
Yes, sir.
valid this much?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Is this code valid? The reference is of father class, but the object is of grandson. Is it valid?
No.
Is it? Can't a parent class reference point to child class object? As we are progressing, well, are not practicing what is being taught
Yes, that
earlier.
is possible.
So this will be a very big hindrance when we start the actual real world development. Was this not taught? I took an exclusive session on this.
It was taught.
Yes, sir.
Can a parent class reference point to a child class object?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It will
Definitely.
extend.
No.
Yes, sir.
So this no is because of not practicing. And when we start the actual project, this will be a very big blocker. Is this possible?
Friend.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right? So now the exception just throws of which class?
Null pointer exception.
So what all options do I have to catch it?
Parent class.
So which
Null exception,
what
runtime.
options do I have? Can I make a object of null pointer exception? Is that acceptable? Yes, no, maybe.
I think yes, sir.
Which exception is being thrown at line number 13?
So null pointer exception.
So who can it be caught by line number 21?
No.
Line number 25?
No.
29?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So what we can say? Please create object, right?
Yes, sir.
And my question is, what all options I can have instead of null pointer exception? Can I have runtime exception?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Farooq. Can
Yes,
I
sir.
use runtime exception instead of null pointer
The
exception?
parent class, it can
Yes, sir.
access
Who's the parent of null pointer?
parent class. Yes.
Run. Yes, sir.
Runtime exception is a
Can
parent.
I use exception? Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It also be possible, sir.
Exception, if I use,
Class.
exception can catch all the exceptions. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Exception, if I use, can catch all the exception in his umbrella.
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Sir. It's a
So-
super class.
Is this, so if I write that, will this be caught?
No, I mean it will catch all the classes.
So if I now write this code, which catch block will catch this exception? Line number,
And null pointer,
which
line number
block
20.
will catch that?
Sir, exception.
Line number
must
29.
Catch all the.
Number 29.
Yes.
Why? Because
It's a
Exception is a super class.
super class. It's a super class.
per class, right? So this is called as default exception handling. You know what is default? Default in switch case? What is default in switch case?
Default.
Yeah, in switch case, when I do switch. So I write case 1, case 2, blah, blah,
Yes,
blah.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is default in that?
Last one is a default.
What does that mean?
It's mean it shows a last one statement compulsory default one.
Means what?
If user is not entering any case, then it will go to
Exactly.
default.
Perfect. If it is not entering any case, it will compulsory enter default. Correct?
Correct.
So
Yes,
this
sir.
exception which is being thrown, is it being caught by input mismatch? This exception I'm taking, this exception, line number 13. Is it being caught by input mismatch? Yes, guys, this exception just thrown over here at line number 13. Is it being caught by input mismatch?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
Is it?
If you enter a 10, it's not. If you enter a 10,
No,
it's
sir.
not.
I am not going till that line. That is
Okay,
line
okay,
number
okay,
14.
sir, sorry.
I am asking on line number 13.
Okay, sorry.
So will this which exception is thrown at line number 13?
Is exception one, exception, last one.
I'm asking which exception will be thrown at line number 13.
Sir, null pointer
Null
exception.
point exception, sir.
So will it be caught by this catch?
No,
No,
Will it be caught by this catch?
no,
no,
Then I put a default. That is, if it is not caught by any of the top catches, it will compulsory be caught by this catch. So
yes, sir.
and what you give is the parent class exception. So that if the above don't catch it, this will 100% catch it, correct?
But sir, it will catch all of the above as well.
Yeah, so these are called, so, but I'm doing one after the other, no. If I comment this, now if you enter over here ABC, which exception will occur?
Sir, mismatch,
Input mismatch.
input
So-
mismatch.
So it will first go to the, so I put in the actual catches before, right? This I
Right.
put the last. So if any of the above catches will not catch, then it will go in the default, right?
Right,
So yeah, that's why I'm putting a. So if I expect only these two exceptions, and then apart from this, any third exception occur, then it will, this catch will catch it.
got it, sir.
At the end, I will just be safe and write the exception so that this can catch any other exception apart from these two. So this is called
Got
as default exception handling. What is this called as?
Default
Default
error,
exception handling. So now, see,
default exception.
yeah, so now I do this. Now I've uncommented. So which exception will occur over here?
Null pointer exception.
Null pointer exception, correct? So Java will make object a null pointer and throw. It will be caught by which exception now?
Sir, exception.
And what will it display?
Easy. Please create object.
And then after that,
hi.
Print high. High will be printed.
will it ask me enter numerator?
No.
No. So let's try to see it. Okay, got it?
Yes, sir.
This is called as default exception handling. Okay, can one try have multiple catches?
Yes.
So this topic also is, so structure is what? Try catch. What is the structure of exception handling?
Try catch.
Okay, and if you want certain code which is to be executed irrespective exception occurs or not, put it in finally. Put it in.
Find.
Put it where in the which block?
Finally.
So this will execute irrespective the exception occurs or not. Exception occurs or not. So now if I comment out this line and I enter 10 and 2, what is the output?
5.
Was there any exception?
No,
So it will
No.
not go in any of the catch. Directly to finally. Directly to finally. What will it say?
hi.
High.
So, and if I enter over here 10 and 0,
Then it shows.
Then it will ask for
then
arithmetic
what will it
exception.
say?
Yes,
Please enter valid denominator.
And then what will it say?
hi.
High.
So finally will always be executed. Finally will always be
Executed.
irrespective exception occurs or not. Irrespective exception occurs or not. So now if I enter numerator as 10 and 5, was there any exception here now?
No.
What will it display?
2 and high.
2 and high. So if no exception, try finally. And if exception, try catch finally. So if I enter over here DSA,
Please enter valid numerator.
and
Yeah.
high, correct?
Correct.
This is the structure of exception handling, try, catch, and finally. So this is done.
Yes, sir.
Can we have multiple catches? This is done.
Yes. sir.
Yes, sir.
Can we have a default exception handling at the end?
Yes. sir.
Yes, sir.
So let's stop here for today. and you all practice at least this much. Okay, these 7 points. Now, tomorrow we'll continue with these 7 points. So we
Perfect.
have at hand what is the topic which is bothering you all, which you all wish to revise. We have 15 minutes at hand. We can do that. Any topic which you would want to revisit. Sir, I was practicing over the weekend and this topic was giving me hard at time. So can you please revise this for my sake?
Sir,
And-
whenever we need to use a scanner new, we always need to use the util command.
Farooq, the logic of that is we have two types of classes, inbuilt and user defined, correct?
Correct.
So here the class which I made today by the name natural tendency, is it a inbuilt class or is it a class defined by the programmer?
Sir, can you show me, I mean, which you are referring to?
This
Na-
class, natural tendency.
Sir, it is user-defined class.
Defined class. Okay, this class which I made, saving account,
This is also user-defined.
bank service.
User-defined.
Okay, and these classes, input mismatch, arithmetic exception, what are these?
Inbuilt class. Inbuilt class.
Classes, right? So
Right.
you have understood that there are two broad categories of classes. So once which the programmer gives the name is called as user defined class, and the which are already present in Java are called as
Inbuilt class.
inbuilt or built-in, whatever, okay, whatever you think. Now, whenever I wish to use an inbuilt class, my first task is if that class is not in my package, if that class is,
Not in the package.
you have to import that class. Then only you can use it. Unless and until you import the inbuilt class, you cannot use it. So unless until you download the app from Play Store, you cannot install it. Correct?
Correct.
Which is your, so if you are trying to use a inbuilt a predefined app, like as you said, DoorDash. Now DoorDash is a app which is on the Play Store.
Correct.
If you want to use that app, what will you do first?
Download the app.
To download the app is as good as saying you import the class. Then you can start using placing order, correct? So once you have
Correct.
imported the class, second step is you can create its object, create its.
Object.
So now I want to accept input from the user, from the console. I wish to do what?
Input from the user.
I wish to accept input from the console, correct? Enter the numerator, denominator, what?
Correct.
So yeah, I want to accept input from the console. So which class will I need for that?
Built-in class. I mean, scanner.
So my first step is I import that class. And when I import the class, I should know its fully qualified name. So scanner is in the main package Java, in the sub package util. In that you have a class called as scanner.
Yeah.
So now once I've
Example.
imported the class, then in my program I can make its object. Scanner SC is new scanner. Blah blah blah, whatever
Right.
you want to use. Similarly over here, now in my program, I wanted to make an object of which class?
Arithmetic exception.
Is arithmetic there in the default package of my application?
Is in built-in.
It's in java.lang. It's in which package?
Built-in package.
Java.lang. Which is that package name?
Java.lang.
So it will first import that class. You see? As lang package is automatically imported. So lang package, no, it is automatically imported. So you don't just reflect over here. Now, if I wanted to use this input mismatch exception, this is in which class, which package?
Java lang
Util.
util.
So you first import that class, then only you can create its object or reference, whatever.
Sir, if we just write instead of two on
Hmm?
the top, if we just write import java dot util dot static. So I mean
Star
it
means
is
all the classes in the util package. That also is possible. That also is possible, but not recommended.
so sir, if we
Class is
delete the
not
line number 2,
super
then
package,
it's still
util package is a
You can delete that.
super package, sir. All the packages.
All the classes and interfaces of the util package will be imported, but this will increase the cost because there's something called as you have a system software called as linker and loader. Have you heard of linker loader?
no sir.
So linker means whatever extra classes I am needing apart from this class, whatever extra classes I am needing, it will link those classes with my application. So as of now, I'm needing how many classes?
2.
So it will link only those 2 classes with my application because to my application to perform needs help from these classes. So now these 3 classes will be linked and one application will be formed. Okay. And that will be loaded in the memory. Okay. Now, if I say util dot star, then if util has 50 classes, it will link my application, my main class with all those 50 classes. My application will become heavy. Okay. So unnecessary, it is linking with the 48 unwanted classes and they will be loaded in memory unnecessarily. So no need to load use dot star. Getting for what I'm trying to say?
Yes sir, I got your point.
Yeah. So you have to first import that inbuilt class, then only you can make its object.
I am clear sir.
Yeah. So whichever class is there outside our package, you have to import that class. If I have a class in my own package, like if I make over here a class which is in my own package. So now if I have a class student, let's say, which is in my own package, correct? And now I want to use this student class object over here. Do I have to compulsory import it?
No.
Why no?
Was the
Because sir,
package
it's developer defined.
different package.
Because it is in the same package. Because it is in the
Same package.
If it is in the same package, don't need to import. Now, if I put this student in a different package, now I go and I make a new package. Okay, I come here and I make a new package called as test. Okay, and I drag this student class in the test package. Now, student class is in which package?
Test package.
Yes.
Student class is in which package?
Test.
Create a copy, sir.
I dragged it. I should. Normally, when I drag you, now student class is in which package?
Test.
Package.
Now it is not allowing me. What it is asking me first? Do what?
Package mention.
Import.
First
Import.
When I click on
Go to your
import, it
package.
will import from where?
Top side is
Test. Student class.
Then I can
Student
use.
package.
Then I can use. Getting it? Yes,
Yes,
no,
sir.
maybe. Yes, Farooq, understood?
Yes sir, I understood.
Very good. Now, who else is having any difficulties? Any other topic? We have around 8 minutes more to discuss.
But definition of package, sir. Can you explain, sir? Definition, only definition, sir.
Definition of
Package.
package means a group of classes and interfaces.
Okay.
What is a package?
Group of classes and interfaces is called a package.
Yeah. So Java, so if you go to a library, do you see one pyramid of a book and you go inside and fetch the book which you want? All the books are dumped and one mountain is formed of the books. Is it like that? Is it? Do you see a heap of books in the library?
No.
What do you see? Shelves and racks. correct?
Organize. Yes.
Properly organized. So if I want to go to a sports rack, which is labeled as sports, so I will have all the magazines and books about sports over here. If I want to go to entertainment, I will go to the entertainment shelf. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And blah blah like this. If I want to go for trade and
Physics.
commerce,
Science.
then I will go to trade and commerce section. So like this, they organize the books, correct?
Correct.
Similarly, Java also doesn't dump all the classes in one folder. As per their usage, Java will put them into different packages. So Java has package called IO. So there's one package called as what?
IO.
So all the input output related work,
Yes.
you will be all those classes will be in java.io. If you want to play with databases, Java has a package called java.sql.
SQL.
So all
SQL.
related work, all the that will be
SQL
over here.
query language.
If you want some random number, some utility task, then you have java.util. Okay.
Okay,
Like
sir.
this, you have lots of built-in packages and all the classes which are needed for them are placed in those packages. And similarly, you can make your own package also and put your own classes in those packages. Those are your user-defined packages. Yes, Shabana?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Nice.
Anyone, anything else?
No, sir. I'm good.
What is the difference between final and
Final
and finally?
Final
Yes.
Final has three contexts. Who will tell me the three contexts of final? Final has three contexts. The final keyword with a small f has three contexts. What if I put final before a data member? What if I put final before a member method? And what if I put final before a class? Final before a data member. So that is called.
You write before the class, then I mean it will just come to the output
If I put
directly.
final before a data member, that becomes a constant. That becomes a
Constant.
constant. So if I say final double pi equals to 3.14. Now can pi be modified?
No, we cannot.
If someone says pi plus plus, will it allow? So if I
Yes.
add
No.
final before a data member, it becomes a constant. It becomes a
Constant.
if I add final before a method name, so class father, and if I say final void car, so this method is now not overridable. Not overridable means what? You cannot make a function with the same name and same arguments in the child class. Now if I make a class son, which extends father, can son say this white car BMW? Is this permissible?
No,
It's
it's not
allowed
permissible.
because final method cannot be overridden. In the subclass, you cannot make a function with the same name and same argument because it's a final method. Okay. And if I add final before a class name, it cannot be inherited. It cannot be
Inherited.
if I say final class father, is this permissible?
No, sir, it's not permissible.
No.
It cannot be inherited.
So if final before data member, it becomes a constant. Before
Yes.
method becomes what?
Father not overwriting, writable,
And before class becomes
cannot be extendable. Inherit.
not
inheritable.
inheritable. Okay. So
Yes.
final before data member becomes
Constant, not overridable in case of method and not inheritable in case of class.
perfect. Making sense to you all? So this is the what? Final before a data member. Final before a
Not overridable and not inheritable.
yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Next what?
Or
Finally, but
Finally is in exception handling.
exception handling.
Irrespective the exception occurs or not, it will always go in finally.
so it's a method or
Block.
what, sir?
Block.
We
Block.
can say
Finally block.
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 Okay.
Block.
Set of instructions. What is it? The set of instructions.
Sir, we have a class tomorrow and then we have a class the
Monday.
day after tomorrow or
Monday.
Monday.
Sunday, Saturday, Monday.
So there is a 1 day gap.
Yeah, one layoff.
It's 11 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, guys, it's 11. Then should we stop? Practice this 5 to 7 points which I have discussed today. Then I'll continue from nested try tomorrow
Sure.
onwards. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.